Tonight we're going to talk about a past video or segment of videos that I did about a year ago. And no, I didn't plan on wearing the same shirt, but as I was reviewing some footage in regards to this, I noticed that I'm wearing the same shirt. So I did not plan that, but as you can tell, it's one of my favorites. But as I dug it out tonight, just for this occasion, just for you guys, the topic that we're talking about is baiting in Michigan in general, and baiting in general all over the entire country. As you guys know, I travel the entire U.S. Designing and consulting on whitetail hunting properties, so I see this stuff firsthand. Obviously, like I had stated in those past videos, I was born and raised baiting. We were I was raised in a family that did very little bow hunting. I kind of took that on myself and had a kind of an archery mentor, if you will. My father was not an archery hunter. He was a hunter. He was a rifle hunter, and that's how we were raised. And the majority of that was over bait, and that's just how it was. And now I do this full time as far as a whitetail hunting consultant, if you will. And so there's a lot of things that tie into that have got me to making those videos. And like I said, I understand the frustration, and I think first of all, I'm gonna kind of touch on a couple things here. First of all, when a year ago, when all this was pretty fresh in the world of the baiting ban, and what are we gonna do, and what do we do next? How do we get over that hurdle without losing a whole bunch of sportsmen and young kids, adults in general that are used to baiting? How do we go about doing that? That was the intention of my video. So we're going to talk tonight about what has changed with me over the last year, where I'm at with this topic, and what I believe that we can continue to do and try to see eye to eye here on this, as far as helping some folks out, and where we stand in general with the DNR. The second point here was the criticism, and like I said, I've got broad shoulders, and I knew that it was going to ruffle some feathers when I did these, and my intention was not to be on the side of the DNR, was not to be an anti-bait hunter. The criticism that I have got from that, there's been some very valid points in some of the arguments, and I've tried to always tell folks along this way of through these comments that had came in because of this video, was that was not my intention to degrade anybody. That wasn't my intention. It was the intention of that video, and I like I said, went back through and watched that to listen to my words that I had chosen to use. The intention, the response to that maybe was a little overlooked. So we're going to talk about we're going to tie number 3 in here about the Michigan DNR, and where we're at with some of the rules that they've made since the year, where we're at with that as a whole. And the first thing we're going to talk about that comes to my mind is, right now, this topic comes up with clients, and we do 60 some clients a year. Like I said, it's my belief, their belief, the folks that follow us on social media. There's all kinds of different beliefs and how to cure things and what to do, and we all have our own opinion, right? And that's why, like I said, I have a YouTube channel here. That's where I express mine and try to teach. So the rule was, at the end of the day, a year ago, the rule was, and it did not get overturned, that the Lower Peninsula could not bait, but the Upper Peninsula could. And even though, taking into consideration that they had found CWD that started this whole bait ban situation, they had found that in the UP, and they had also found it in the Lower Peninsula, but for whatever reason, they did not bait it. They did not banned baiting in the UP. And like we had talked before, there's a lot of different. There's the UP and Lower Peninsula are like two different worlds, if you will. It's like where I'm from here in Lake County compared to Detroit. It's about that difference. A lot of us from the Lower Peninsula use the UP or go to the UP on vacation, but there's a lot of folks up there that were really affected by the bait ban, and I believe that for some research that I've done over the year here, that there has been some effect to that on the deer health in general, just some mass health issues, that not health issues that have been caused of that, but as far as health standards that weren't met because of that baiting ban. And so where do we stand with that? And the sad part of it is before, when I did those segments, like I had said before with the DNR, like them, love them, hate them, it was a rule that they set in place. And I had a pretty good relationship with the Michigan DNR, especially because we worked together on some projects we have done in the past. Some with some more excavation side of the world, we had done a lot of projects with them. So we always tried to work with them because obviously there are some people in those positions that have more education, the biologist, whatever the case is, and educated is not always best. Over-educated, under-skilled is one of the terms that I use a lot of, and I feel that now that is shining through here with the DNR. But that the topic is the point of that was to get through to the hunting public in Michigan that like them, love them, or hate them. It was a rule that we needed to somehow band together and either band together with a spokesperson such as Uncle Ted, and go after it to change it and make our voices heard, or we had to live with the not live with the regrets, but live with the rule, and still be a hunting community, because the diversity that caused, and anybody that watches this channel, my opinions on APRs, and that is the diversion that it causes. A lot of these rules and over mandates cause in the hunting industry. And right now we can't afford to lose hunter numbers because of the power that we need, the power that comes from hunter numbers, which is going to be shown, I feel very strongly that's going to be shown here November 3rd. But the problem with it is trying to, as myself, as a professional, trying to keep the DNR and the NRCS and some of these other agencies, to try to be respectful for them, is a respect that I have lost. I'm going to just throw that right out there and be very frank with you. Is not any one person. I touched on I brought one gentleman up in the last segments, and they all, I believe they're good people, but the problem is, as a department in a whole, the Michigan Department of Natural Resources has let the state of Michigan down in many ways. But here I'm going to tell you exactly why that my opinion on this has changed from we need to kind of all band together and just deal with it. That's how it kind of came across, that I was saying just deal with it. And but I also had a solution in there. Like I said, somebody telling you or pointing a finger at you without a resolution is an insult, and I still believe that. But that's why I had the one bite bait deal, that I said that if you're gonna bait, if it did get overturned, then I recommend doing the one bite bait. I still feel very strongly about one bite bait. Obviously, we're not using it because it's banned here in the Lower Peninsula, and we're not hunting in the UP this year. But the whole produce baiting is something that ties into that. I'm not a carrot guy, like I said before. To me, carrots have very low value at all. But the sugar beets do have a value for a health standard of the whitetail deer. But how to use those, and I've tied some videos on how to use those. Use it as a food plot. Don't hunt over it. There's some strategy that comes into that. But what we're going to talk about is why I'm at the situation now with the Michigan DNR, or a lot of these agencies that have tried to mandate, if you will. And it's scary how much of this mandate approach has been driven down our throats. Is very similar to the mask mandates and the entire state of Michigan going on a lockdown and all the stuff that comes with COVID. You've heard the term, and I'll use it, is the CWD is the COVID of the deer world, and it's very true. Very, very scary on some of these mandates and legislation and ideas that are being forced upon us now, that were also being forced upon us then, without any scientific backing. And to me, there's a huge connection there. So one of the things that I'm going to touch on is the sale of the baiting. You know, like I said, I stepped up to the plate with my approach, and put my best foot forward with the state, and said, brought it to you guys and said, hey, like we said, like it, love it, or hate it, this is the law. My biggest thing was I didn't want to see anybody get pinched with a ticket by just saying, we're going to bait whether you like it or not. I'm going to put a truckload out of it, or we're going to continue to use the same amount of bait that we were. And my intentions was not like, if you use it, you're not a hunter. My intention was, if you get ticketed for that, what's that going to cause for your hunting season, other than just paying the fine and continue on in life? But what's it going to do to your kids if they're not able to hunt? All that ties into it, right? That was my intention. That was my approach. That wasn't the way that it was portrayed or maybe and taken. But the big circle here that I keep reaching up behind me and circling on the board is the sale of this bait. You know, I've struggled with that since a year ago to really step up and continue to support this effort to not bait, because you know, some of the stuff that they were trying to teach or preach or enforce, whatever term you want to use, it didn't, to me, it wasn't being, you know, some of that actually had some truth to it that could have, you know, happened. The saliva, you know, using whole produce bait, the saliva, whether they're getting more from that than they do just in a normal deer world when they're licking the tarsal glands or licking the licking branch. Or does it enhance that? Does it help spread that anymore? So that was stuff that I was listening to, trying to be open-minded about it. And in the background, the state is not enforcing the sale of this bait. And it's a very heated topic right now with the farmers in the state of Michigan. It's a very heated topic with some of the stores or the co-ops and stuff that are selling the bait. It's a huge direct jab to their pocket, and I understand that. But my approach was, if it's going to destroy, if there was an intention for it to destroy, or a possibility for it to destroy CWD, to destroy our deer herd, I was willing to listen. Because just like you guys listening to this channel, I have a serious passion for deer hunting all across this great country, not only the state of Michigan. And I was willing to listen, like, okay. So I'm going to be the first one to tell you, I gave the Michigan DNR too much credit, and some of these other agencies. And here's the reason why, is if you're going to try to ban the bait usage, why in the world is it legal to sell it? So that's my approach was, if you're going to continue to sell it, people are going to continue to use it. People would find a way to use it anyway, but like carrots and sugar beets and stuff like that, if it wasn't for sale, obviously people wouldn't buy it and or couldn't buy it. More, you know, availability would be less, so they wouldn't be out there. But there was no regulation. There's no regulation tying any of that to any tickets. Very few that I've ever heard have been ticketed. I'm just going to throw this out there. I was told last week that there's multiple sheriffs per county that are buying, and folks that work for the DNR that are buying bait and baiting in the state of Michigan. And where are they getting it from? They're getting it from the co-ops and everybody that are selling it. So the co-ops have a very strong feeling about it, because it's direct. You know, it's a direct jab, like I said, to the farmers that they service as well, and I get that 100%. So over the year time here, all of this started turning about the, you know, obviously we were hit with COVID and everything else, but started turning away from the scientific backing or the background of the proof. And to me, all of a sudden it started becoming very clear that this wasn't about, it wasn't about the scientific proof about stopping. It wasn't about scientific proof about stopping baiting. What it was about was the state of Michigan did not feel it was ethical to bait. And that has even been said by some legislators on the other side of the aisle that wanted to ban baiting because they don't feel it's ethical. Well, that's where I started to really listen and deep here about, okay, what's going on here? So they didn't ban the sale. They said that you couldn't, you can't. It's not illegal to sell it. Well, you don't feed carrots and sugar beets and wildlife feed to your cattle. So I feel that they could have enforced it if they would have wanted to, if it really had the ties to really proof that it was going to hurt the deer, right? And more the time went on, they steered away from that, and there was no proof. They just left. In my opinion, they left everybody hanging. Everybody that was listening, and not just on the tunnel. And don't take this the wrong way, the guys that are listening to this, but a tunnel vision that we're going to bait whether we want to or not. There were some of us out there that were listening to, like, okay, maybe we need to help educate those folks. Like, listen, we need, there's something to this, and it just steered away from it. Like, they just left us hanging. There was no proof. They went on with other things. They allowed it to be sold. It had to be, if it was sold, it had to be under a fence. Well, you know as well as I do, if you drive any of your local roads, it's for sale all over. And so, to me, if it was as detrimental as they say it was, or going to be, they would have stopped baiting right dead in its tracks. They would have stopped the sale. They would have stopped the baiting. Your fines wouldn't have been $50 and a slap on the back of the hand. It would have been $500 or $1,000. They would have had meetings. They would have went to the state. They would have been on TV. They would have been explaining themselves, instead of Russ Mason with the DNR saying that anybody that baits is not a conservationist. That's when my thought process started changing. Like, where so some of these comments, maybe direct them towards Russ, if you will, because if he hasn't heard from you, maybe the people that have been on here chewing on my ear can chew on Russ a little bit. But two totally different people there. I hope you guys understand that. But that's the approach. He stepped up and said anybody that baited or used bait to harvest an animal is not a conservationist. And I think the man should have been ran out of the state of Michigan right then and there, because that's a huge low blow, and that's not true. And so the next thing that we're going to chat about here is another thing that ties into that, about some of the rules that have been made. Last year, my final, what tipped my cart over, if you will, is last year CWD was found pretty local here to me in Mecosta County. We're in Lake County. It was found in Mecosta County, and I just don't deal with this on a state level, guys. I'm all over the country. So I was in the hot spot of it last year in Wisconsin. And I went through, like I've said in the past to you guys, I went through blue tongue, I went through EHD, I went through CWD, and it's devastating. If TB, when that went through Wisconsin, if that stuff doesn't jar you to the core, then I'll stand up and say you're really not a hunter, because that really affected me as a person watching that, just the deer in general being stacked up like cordwood. So that's why I was willing to listen. Like, okay, we need to really tune our ears in here about what is to come for the future of deer hunting. And like I said, I knew very soon after. That didn't take very many months after, and I seen where this was all headed. And what really, like I said, was the last deal for me is when the Michigan DNR found CWD in Mecosta County last year, Mecosta County, Michigan. And they, to the lack of better terms, they tried to totally annihilate Mecosta County. It was legal to use any weapon in parts of the bow season, firearms in the bow season. They had the rifles were allowed in muzzleloader season. They had an extended season, and they tried to pretty much take the numbers way down. Total annihilation would be my term to use. But tried to take the numbers way down, right? So, people were thinking, okay, they really knew what they were doing, right? They were trying to get the numbers down. Obviously, it's a hot spot. You had to get it under control. Okay. And then this year, the Michigan DNR passed a law that allows the Mecosta County, there's 3 counties, Mecosta, Montcalm, and Isabella, I believe, that got APRs pushed through and have the highest APR restrictions in the state of Michigan. Has to have 4 points on one side or more, both your tags. So we went from totally annihilating an entire county to putting the APR mandate on there where less deer are killed in less than a year, not even a one complete hunting season or a calendar year. So my question is, and I've asked this question directly to the DNR 10 times, and I get the big X. And the reason is if I do get an answer, it's a complete circle. And the reason is because they know that it was more than scientific evidence with CWD. They were in a corner. We had proof as hunters. Ted brought that to the table in a lot of different ways. We had Dr. Deere, Dr. James Scroll, all these scientific, biologic approach, if you will, brought to the table. Dr. Deere was going to come to the plate and help the DNR accomplish this, and he was escorted out of the room pretty much. The DNR had meetings behind closed doors. It was just this hush-hush deal. Well, to me, it was a slap in the face of the Michigan sportsman. And so all of these requirements that I was trying to, to try to help people listen, and if it needs to go away, then how do you prepare so you're not just thrown out in the woods, so to speak, with not having a bait pile, and then if you elect to do it and you get ticketed, what's going to happen? Trying to make those videos to accomplish that, and then having the DNR push through something like they did in Mecosta County it just totally secures my thoughts that I've had over this last year. And what that is it's a huge mandate. It's a force-fed operation. There's no scientific proof to back it, and they have their own ethical beliefs, and it's a approach and a belief on the ethical standards of hunting. Has nothing to do with as far as the health of our deer herd. If it had a lot to do with the health of our deer herd, they would have used that real scare, to really connect the hunting community as a whole, understanding why we shouldn't do that, not just saying, trying to drive all this down our throats and then leaving us high and dry. And so here at the end of my video is, and to the gentleman, the last comment that I had here tonight, I didn't take any of all the comments, but especially tonight to heart. But if you are baiting, I hope you're successful. Either way, with or without it, and I really hope that that some of these videos resonate with you about what you can do if you want to go to the next step, not the next level, but the next step, and try some habitat improvements or the way that you're hunting without it. Or if you are, like I said, if you are using it, then my intentions are just to hope people don't get ticketed. And but like I said, I really believe that it's time that we get a group together somehow, some way, and take it to the state and bring all these red flags to the surface and get an answer on this. So it's a level playing field. So can we sell it? Can we use it? Can we not sell it? Can the attractant still be sold in every sporting goods store all across the country? And Tim's using it, but Joe's not allowed to use it, and Tim's a bad guy and Joe's great. That's what creates this huge diversion in the hunting industry, and that's exactly why a lot of the Midwestern states have ran this stuff off, because it totally drives hunter numbers and tag sales in the tank, and it creates diversion. And as we know, as popular as social media is and YouTube is these days, guys, is we do not need any more social media drama. And that's not why I'm here. I'm here to help promote the awareness. I'm here to promote, if we can use it, how to use it. If we can't use it, how to use it as well, and not degrade anybody for using it or go down that road of the hunter, the degrading hunter mentality right now is something that I really feel strongly that we need to corral before it ruins our hunting as we know it. I've actually designed a hat, and maybe that I'll go sometime and have those done. But it's a plaid hat, a red plaid hat, and it says "Make Michigan Great Again." That's a hat that I feel very strongly about, that needs to be out. T-shirts, and maybe we'll put that on the website right here shortly, because that to me is it's like that all over the country. This great nation, this hunting community needs to be back as one. There's so much diversion right now. We're so far spread apart. Whether you're a camera guy or you're not a camera guy, or you're a celebrity, or you use bait or you don't use bait, and how dare you say that you hunted with an outfitter? It's a mind-blowing deal. It doesn't keep me in business. It doesn't take me out of business. My business is very strong right now, bringing that information to you guys as far as how to be a better conservative, if you will, with your property, with your habitat improvements, how to get there and go to the next step, to the next level, however you want to look at that, and really bring Michigan to the surface, bring it to the top, what it could potentially be, with or without baiting. I believe it can be. I believe it can be brought to the top with baiting, but I believe it has to. The folks that are listening to this, that are using it, have to understand what that's doing to your property most of the time. Not saying that you're not one of those guys that are like me, that when we use it correctly. What I feel is correctly in the right areas. It's a very, very powerful tool. But when you're adding it and you're hunting over top of it, it's no different than me as a guy that's promoting food plots, saying that food plots can destroy your property. So same theory, right? So that is the topic that I wanted to touch on. I hope you listen to this, share it, like it, bring your topics to the surface, whatever it is. There's got to be a way to bring this hunting community back to a whole. And to me, if you're baiting, great, continue to do it. I'm not, that'll be the next comment that I get from the state of Michigan, saying that I'm telling people to go bait. I'm not saying go buy the bait. I'm saying that if they're not going to enforce it and they're going to sell it, they can't regulate it. It's bogus. It's an absolute bogus approach that has destroyed our entire state, with no proof of what anywhere further than what we were last year. So hope that kind of clears some topics up, guys. Let you know where I stand with this, where I stand with the Michigan DNR right now. And I'll be the first to say that in 6 months from now, a year from now, with the Michigan DNR pulls their head out of the gutter, then I'm not saying that I'll be promoting the DNR again. I'm very much for a DNR based in a state that works with the state for the sportsmen, not against them. And sadly, Michigan is not one of those states right now that has a DNR, has an agency that's willing to fight for us. It's all pointed against us. Thanks, guys.